right.
Welcome, Haz Mateers, to this episode of the Haz Mat Roundtable 2.0, the only interactive show that lands on the X and in the hot zone, where everyone has a seat at the table. I'm Jason Rogers, along with Bob Koscignano, Mike Salveson, and Bobby Monaco. For the next 20 minutes, we'll be in the hot zone on the X with the Haz Mat guys. Today's roundtable discussion is brought to you by ResponderTraining.com. Reach out to our good friend Ron Huffman at Responder Training. Telephone number is 765-524-4848 or ResponderTraining.com on the web. Responder Training provides the only commercially available 1-inch propane flare, along with all your other propane and propane accessory needs for emergency response. That's ResponderTraining.com. You'll find the link to this sponsor and all of our sponsors in the show notes below. Welcome to the Roundtable, boys.
Hello.
Good friend. Tight acquaintance, maybe, but good friend.
Wow. Good friend.
I call you a friend. I use the term loosely.
Oh, that's so hurtful.
Look at Mike for a second. What is all this?
This is, I haven't shaved in like 3 weeks.
You're almost like retired.
Wow.
Yeah, it's I haven't shaved. Well, that's what happens when you don't have a shower. Hashtag squatter's life.
It looks like they've put you in the hole.
Yeah.
I mean,
but this is so sad. All right, so like chemo took away most of my ability to grow body hair. So I just have this kind of 3 weeks of scruffy. It matches my eyebrows.
Oh my God, they're gone too.
So thanks for tuning in to the Roundtable.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, Lord. That's great. So, what's tonight's topic? Tonight's topic, I was kind of actually a little excited for this thing. We're going to talk about hybrid classes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, just as a poll, has anybody done one of these things? Like, has anybody worked with doing, and all right, let me back it up a second. What is a hybrid class? A hybrid class is a mixing and matching. There's traditional classes where you physically get up in front of the class, you do physical, and you do PowerPoints. You're in front of them the whole time. And where the trend is now going, it seems, is that there's a hybridization of there's face-to-face learning, and then there's also going to be some type of go home, go on the computer, and take the class on your own. So what do you guys think about this whole thing?
Well, to be honest, and I don't know how, there's a lot of it around the country, but we started it here in Florida, several years ago. And I'll be honest with you, I was not a big fan of it. I don't think that you don't get the student interaction. And how do you teach chemistry via hybrid? And different people around the country have their technician programs are different lengths. For instance, in Florida, it's 160 hours. I think out in California, what does Todd say? There's just like...
It's like 18, 19 years.
Yeah.
It's a crazy long one. But, everywhere around the country is not the same. That's problem number one. Problem number two is, how do you don't get that interaction? And what we found in Florida when they did a pilot program, if you will, at a location. They did all of the classroom work online except for the last 60 hours. So they spent 6 10-hour days doing all hands-on. And from what we found from the students coming back was that they wasted 2 days trying to get caught back up on questions over time. And so that was kind of a waste. When, as you guys know, Derek Shawman, when him and he's the program manager for our program at Valencia here in Central Florida, we sat down with the powers to be and said, listen, let's do like a week on, week off kind of concept. The whole hybrid thing was coming. There's nothing we can do about it. It helps the different departments out where they're not having to send people for a long period of time. There's the financial aspect and what have you. But we felt that if we did at least in a week on, week off format, when they came back to us during that week on, we knew we would spend one of the 5 days answering questions, kind of going back over stuff, kind of a review, if you will, and then we can move forward instead of just wasting time at the end. So the original program, I don't think worked out so well how others were doing it. So we adapted. It's been good, but we still have found challenges here and there.
Yeah.
So let me ask a question. In what you're saying, Bob, do you find that it's age group related? So like guys our age maybe are a little more apprehensive about getting behind a computer to take a class, and the younger kids aren't, because I know they're doing like this e-learning thing in high school now. I remember when my kids were in middle school, it was like, I called it like Google Math, because it was some sort of computer math class. I mean, the teacher just like emailed them their assignments and they did it all on that. So I think that, I hate to even use the term younger generation, but I think it is a generational thing. I know the older guys on my department don't like doing, they want pencil and paper on everything. So
Right.
I feel kind of that way myself. I would rather have somebody standing in front of me and feel like I can get some feedback. So is that, do you think there's a generational thing going on here, or no?
I personally think it's part of it. I know when I was getting my degree, most of it was online, and that was a whole new experience for me. So I see it from the student side, and then from the instructor side, it's given us, I'm not going to bash it completely. There are some pros to it, but we're just not, in this type of field that we're in, we're not getting the hands-on that I think we desperately need to have. And instead, people are trying to hit the easy button because we can do it online. We can, what have you. And not saying that it's easy by any means, but I just feel we're losing a little bit in that hand-to-hand, instructor to student format.
Yeah.
I'm going to jump in.
Go.
Can I jump in?
Do it.
All right. I'm going to agree with both of you and disagree with both of you. I personally feel like it is one of the most incredible tools and will absolutely change the way that we learn and do things. However, yes, I think it is a generational thing, in the degree that the generation that is setting it up sucks. It's not the generation that's taking it. It's the generation that's setting it up. I have yet to be on a learning management system or any kind of hybrid class that wasn't just basically a textbook online, where they're pumping out paragraphs in front of you. Maybe they're reading it to you. Ooh, big deal. And then you answer questions at the end. They are so far from being able to do anything in a productive, engaging manner that it really takes that online experience and flushes it down the toilet. There are so many different ways that you can engage your audience online. It doesn't have to be this cookie cutter, like paragraph, click next, paragraph, click next. That is the laziness that goes into a lot of these hybrid systems. There are ways to be able to do things online. There are ways to be able to engage people online. It's just you're going to have to wait for the younger generation to get older to do it right.
You know what? I'm going to throw a different dynamic in there, and this is where I saw the issue. Not me personally. This is where I heard the issues. Is a lot of the instructors are like, "Well, this is going to kind of cut me out of the whole system."
But it shouldn't.
It doesn't.
It shouldn't, because you should. All right. I want to do these hybrid systems. I want to create these hybrid systems. And I think that being an instructor doesn't mean that you just record some BS and walk away forever. You still have to engage your student. You still have to be there for your student. You still have to be able to see whether or not somebody's understanding something, and then explain it to them, and then realize they don't get what the hell you're saying. So I got to do it from a different way or a different angle or a different point of view. And that's not happening.
Well, and you're right, because that actually goes to the instructor as to how engaged they want to be. For instance, I'm speaking from our program, I know for a fact how engaged Derek is with the instructor, with the students back and forth. and how he tries to be there all the time and answer questions and provoke thought and so on. But unfortunately, there's a lot of instructors out there like, okay, I'm going to send this quiz out for everybody, or okay, you guys do a discussion group, and they just let them hang. And like what you're saying, it basically falls back to the instructor, because I had those exact instructors when I was getting my degree that just, okay, do this and talk amongst yourselves, and they walk away.
The discussion board, is that what you used?
Yeah, the discussion.
Yeah, there were all these discussion boards, and yes, and I agree with you. You could intermingle with the other students and explain to each other how you didn't understand.
Right.
That's how I felt.
And nobody else you understand.
Right. And then do you really want another student explaining something to you that they just learned 3 seconds ago?
No. I mean, seriously.
Right.
You haven't even been tested on it.
Anyway.
Well, I am pro hybrid classes, but like I think, yeah, like Mike was saying, I don't think we're doing them right yet. I think so. Just for people that have never heard of this or seen this, me and Mike looked into this extensively, and there's what I will call the backbone is something called Moodle, Moodle, right? And it is an open source software that just about, if you've taken an online course, I guarantee you it was Moodle based. It is extraordinarily
robust.
It's everywhere. And so my college, I'm going back to school. My college is, nobody can hear me?
I can hear you.
I can hear you.
Todd Burton just said, is it just me or can everybody not hear Bobby?
I can't see any scrolling, so I have no idea what they're typing.
Test. Where's the line for left speaker only? What the hell does that mean?
That means they can only hear out of their left speaker, Bob.
Oh, okay. All right. Just listen out of your left speaker. I'm going to continue my idea. And so,
if you're hard of hearing in one ear, flip the earphones around. You'll hear it.
So what was happening is Bobby's volume's very low. Mike Kimura just said that. Yeah, wait, hold on a second. Maybe I can jack me up here. Let's see. How's
Ken
that?
Harrison,
Is that a little
Grant
better?
Scholl, they can hear you.
If the audience is getting together to screw with us,
Test.
kudos to them.
Yes.
Yeah, Kimura's deaf, he says.
All right. Well, it looks like I'm only in one channel. I don't know why. But anyway, let me continue on my rant. So if you're using this skin, and I think that's a lot of the stuff, is that it's just it's a skin problem. My college uses a really cool skin, right, where it's basically this background, and you put whatever hell skin you want on top of this thing. And a lot of these places just basically phoning it in with their skins. They're not really making it look cool, because I think you do have to engage them at some point. They're used to seeing Call of Duty type shit on their screen, and they're not looking back to Super Mario Brothers circa 1980s, whatever, 6. So you do have to put the time and effort into doing that. And a lot of these schools are underfunded, under-budgeted, and understaffed with people that can actually do this. They need a 20-year-old kid that knows how to do this. And then if you get that guy in there and he builds a robust platform, now you get the A team in front of the class that knows how to interact with class with experience and technique. I think you'll be successful doing that. Until you get that mix and match of the right people, the A team of hybrid classes, you're going to fall flat every single time.
Right. And then you need to have somebody who's available. So as an instructor, right, I'm in front of the class for those 8 hours, those dedicated 8 hours, 7 if you include lunch. Don't bother me while I'm eating. And they can talk to me. They can engage me. When you're on a learning management platform and you're doing it at your own pace, you have to be available almost 24/7 when a person has a question, to be able to answer them as quickly as possible. And that's difficult. And in terms of like a company producing a product like that then becomes not as feasible as just flying a guy out there to be in front of the class.
Well, let's take this another step further. Who certifies, I guess certifies is the best term for it. Who certifies company X or Academy Y to the hybrid class and says that this is meeting NFPA standards, OSHA standards, and so on and so forth. Is,
Yeah.
who does that? Because anybody and their brother can go, I got a hybrid class and let's go teach it.
Yeah, but that's the exact same with a normal course.
Yeah.
Like there is no, certifying agency that puts a stamp on your course. What you are essentially doing is your AHJ looks at, like, let's say I have a course, they look at my course. I have already, me and Bob, we've sat down and we've, shown where every single one of our courses meet the law or they meet a standard. And then it's up to us, if something happens in a court of law, to turn around and be like, oh, no, it was covered.
I'll be honest with you. I'm actually going through this right now for where I work, getting our technician level class pro boarded, right? Which that's holy crap. That's a lot of work, and it is. It was a lot of work. And what it really comes down to is they're certifying the class. Right, so if the class meets all the objectives of NFPA 472, OSHA 1910-120, Q, and the 1075 or 1072, that new JPR section. If you're checking all those boxes, then you can hang the label of saying you're certified. And if you look back at your certificates, all it says is that you've met or exceeded NFPA 472, 1072, and OSHA 1910-120. It really, there's no plan. Your PowerPoints can be anything you want.
Even Pro Board is really just a whole bunch of people that have gotten together and say, okay, if you do this, this, and this within your class structure, then we will go ahead and we will back your certification.
Yeah, dude, there's actually there is a hourly, but there's nothing even require you to say, oh, well, I have these PowerPoints. They don't give a crap if you're drawing on a napkin. If you're giving the content, they really don't care. The test has to be vetted. There are multiple. I'll talk from as far as New York State. There are vetted test question banks that are out there. And then you can go through, let's say, 1,000 questions, and I'm going to make 100 questions. I can go through and then hand select my questions. But the testing all has to be done. It has to be done not to a group. It has to be done to the individual. There's a lot of stuff, but it can absolutely be done. There's a lot of good stuff out here. One guy, Craig Mayer, says, this is from Facebook on the Haz Mat Roundtable page. He says that to be a tech in Nassau County, in North Carolina, you're required to take a hazmat of chemistry, mostly taken online. Craig, is that the National Fire Academy one? I'm wondering. And the discussion board is the primary use of communication. That's where a lot of these are going right now. I think they're going to be going to discussion boards after homework type things where people are going to collaborate after school talking about the lessons.
You said something interesting just a second ago, Bobby, and it brings up a great point because you were talking about the way it is in New York State. And that's the difference is where is it accepted, because where I'm from is different from where Kosh is at in God's waiting room. And you guys, I mean, you know what I mean? So the standard in New York State is different than it is for Todd out on the West Coast, as it is for myself, as it is for Matt Blouse down in Kentucky, I think he is. So, I mean, it's all over the roadmap when you talk about these things. So
yeah, and it's even more than state by state. It actually differs from authority having jurisdiction to authority having jurisdiction, because you can continue. New York State could require so many hours, and then my department can turn around and go, all right, well, we're going to add 50 hours to that. And that's going to be the same certification or the same pro board stamp on your certificate as somebody who does it in a different department and does 50 hours less. And
there's still people out there that are doing, believe it or not, 40 hours.
That's the minimum.
And calling that a hazmat technician program.
Right. That's why we elected to go to pro board, which is a national level, certification. And with that, and I'll say that most of the states are pro board certified. Most. I'm not going to say all of them, but the real impetus of why we started to march down this road was because I'm not going to say the organization that was certifying us, but it was basically it was confetti. It was bullshit. It was nothing. It was garbage, right? So basically, when guys were retiring from our job and they would go to Iowa, and they're like, "Hey, listen, I want to become a hazmat technician." They're like, "Oh, great. Where were you?" "Oh, I was 20 years in the FDNY hazmat." And they're like, "Oh, great. Show us your certificate." And they would whip out the certificate and they go, "That's adorable. What else do you got?"
Why is it on a napkin?
Yeah, it's that's adorable. That's lovely. So like we were driving towards saying, okay, listen, we need the state to back us up, and ergo with the state, they are pro board. So if we can get the pro board, we are golden sealed across the whole country, and it's all coming down to this whole hybridized class. We're still resisting in my entity hybrid, but I think that is a very viable cost reduction technique for a department. I'll use FDNY for example. All right. If you're going to bring in a company or guys to come in to do this, right, you're talking about an hour or two drive from their firehouse to the training academy. So you're paying them an hour or two, probably, right? There's union rules and all this other shit. And then you have other problems of, let's say, oh, he caught a fire. Oh, he's on vacation. Oh, now there's no more of that. It's all gone. I think there's a big plus, and this another thing is that this is I'm on the fiscal desk of the administration right now. I'm saying that I record this once with excellence. It's perfection. It's the message I want. It's one and done, and that is the message until we update it. So that's
that
perfect.
I agree with. Your consistency across the board increases tremendously when you have the hybridized courses. I just don't feel like the students have the ability to really walk away with as much as when you are, and it's physically there, and it's only because we have failed to be able to truly make a hybrid class an interactive, well-versed learning center.
And that's why I think you need to have, instead of the traditional hybrid classes that people do, like I mentioned earlier, where they do 100 hours online and then the last 60 are in the field, I think that's where you at least need to do, as our example, week on, week off type of hybrid class, so that if they do have questions in the middle or something they can't figure out, we do take that time to review that first day of that week that we have them to do things. It's got to be a mix and match. It cannot be everything that's online except for the very last week.
Yeah, I have my own ideas on how to make it better, but I'm going to keep those to myself. You'll see them when you sign up for the course.
No, but there's a lot of great right on the Facebook right now. There's a lot of great comments on in here, and some of them are saying that that if they're NFPA and they want to go pro board, you have to pay extra for that. Craig Meyer is saying that I keep saying it. North Carolina is very strict in their certification classes. It's a state-run class, and I totally agree with that. It is a state-run class. Like mine is a city-run class. However, you are basically under the AHJ, the authority having jurisdiction has to certify and say, "Yep, this certification." It could be Bill and Ted's excellent chemistry class. And if the AHJ says, "Yep, that's good," then we are certifying based on Bill and Ted. So, right. And it could be totally BS. It could not even meet NFPA. It could not even meet OSHA. It could be totally BS. And if the AHJ is going to hang his hat on it and say, "Yep, I'm okay in it," somebody's holding the liability stick, and it's the AHJ. That's why a lot of these departments and entities and states and everything are going towards that pro board, towards that state thing. Todd Burton is saying that CSTI, which is in California, is pro boarded out there. And there's also a couple of private entities that are not state certified, not even municipal, that are state are pro boarded. So it's not like you need the state seal. You don't have to wear a patch to get pro boarded.
Right. You just got to be able to pay a lot of money to somebody.
You got to pay a lot of money, baby.
I'll throw it out there. I mean, to get a pro board is as a small guy trying to start up to get pro board, you're definitely fighting against the stream. They've made it impossible for somebody starting up to get granted that pro board certification. It's one of those just ways of keeping a small guy down.
Yeah.
Bobby, let me ask you a question. So with you being involved in a federal group,
yep,
without naming anything specific, that is a group of people, and there's several throughout the country, that all train under the same guidelines, yes?
Yeah. Well, wait.
Well,
Elaborate a little bit more, because
FEMA task force.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
The USAR teams.
Yep.
So all the USAR teams around the country train under the same criteria, correct?
Yeah, there's certain guidelines and requirements that are made for every FEMA USAR technician or whatever, rescue, search, whatever it might be.
So why can't we do this? Because this question was asked to me not that long ago. Why can't we do the same thing with hazmat technician level? Because there's so many different requirements depending on, as we mentioned earlier, where you are in the country. Why can't the powers to be, the Graham Poobahs, whoever, come up with this is the national standard?
I'll tell you.
It's called OSHA.
Money.
Well,
that's why they don't do it.
But people do take the OSHA and they read it differently. So that's
they take the OSHA and do what the federal government is designed to do, which is to create minimal standards to say, okay, you have to meet these standards, but the states can overdo this. They could add more to it because of whatever they're responding to, right? So let's take New York State, for example, or New York City. We don't see huge propane tanks. There is not a single huge propane tank in the entire city, with the exception of the New York City Fire Academy. So we don't get trained on those huge propane tanks,
right, because
it's just not something that is in our area. So they set these minimal guidelines, and then they say, okay, well, the reason the authority having jurisdiction has that authority is because they're supposed to know their area best, and they're supposed to be able to tailor a class that fits what their hazards are for their locale.
That area, exactly. And that was the answer that I tried to give this person, and they didn't get it. Thank you for proving my point, Michael.
But you also and I agree with that wholeheartedly, but you also have to look at it. If we're talking about the administrative and financial side, you're talking about states, if we want to say it, states or AHJs that are going to have to buy into the certification online. And yes, we'll accept that. I've got to have some sort of login. We're going to pay some sort of networking fee. We're going to pay some sort of subscription fee to accept it and get the feedback and those types of things. So I think there's the whole administrative side of it is that there's money, like Mike alluded to, it's expensive.
Yeah. And a good hybrid system should be expensive. You have a tremendous amount of live resources happening all the time. And a good system is going to rival having a person there an instructor there in person.
So, all right. So then you said it should be expensive. And I agree with that in context. What I will say is that if it costs, and I'm making up a total BS number here, if it costs $20,000 for you to put on your 80-hour class, it should cost $20,000 for you to make a Moodle. It should, for a hybrid class. It should cost at least that, because that $20,000 that you're going to put into that one class is going to carry, because the second class is not going to cost you another $20,000. But
right.
If you do it the traditional way, it will cost you another $20,000.
Right.
So if you put $40,000 into that whole hybrid class, and you put a kick-ass, totally knock-off type of class together, and you're like, people are like, oh my God, it brings a tear to my eye. Then then you're gonna have everybody hanging on the words. You're gonna have the best class out there, and people are gonna eat it real easily. And in the long run, you're absolutely good. But the problem is nobody's looking long run. People are like, well, from an instructor point of view, oh, I'm getting cut out of it. There's less instructors being hired. From the student, I'm not getting interaction. From the administration, oh, it costs too much to make this class. It's all BS. Everybody's pointing at each other, and all you got to do is take the leap. And what it's going to happen is, I will put my money on this. It's going to not be a municipal. It is going to be a private entity that is going to come up and make the best hybrid class, and then everybody's going to be running to chase the tail of that dog. Look at Mike. Look at Mike.
I happen to wholeheartedly agree with you, Bob.
And stay tuned for the Haz Mat Guys Learning Management System.
Yeah. So I think it's only a matter of time. I'm actually kind of surprised somebody hasn't really dumped.
Because they don't know how to engage the audience yet in this new thing. They can't comprehend how to do that. You just have to figure out a way to do that.
Right.
And then it becomes worth it.
It's not that you can't bring the team together. You absolutely can. You can bring the A-list guys in to do the actual instructions. You need the A-list guys to actually do, like, the supporting videos, documentation, like all those little demonstrations that you're not actually physically able to do in front of them, but the charts and the drawings that you would do on the screen, that has to be made into those infomercial. What do they call those things? Those
like the basically like YouTube channels. Listen, sit down with your 4 to 10-year-old and see what they watch on YouTube, and then create a class that's just like that, and you'll start to engage people.
Yeah.
And if you think I'm joking, I sit there with a pen and paper and I take notes on what my son does on YouTube.
You'll have to be able to use TikTok or the you teach it that way in like the Twitterverse or something. You know what I mean?
We should do a Haz Mat TikTok in suits,
dude. We're on that.
Doing it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
next
done.
Class moving.
Oh, that's
I mean, I think, and coming full circle, just like you're talking about, Mike, if you look at, I just watched a documentary the other day, and they were talking about like these drone pilots and how these things stay in the air all the time, and these kids are flying them. And I noticed the game controller that they're flying these probably billion-dollar drones with are exactly like the PS2 that's in my game room.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
It's crazy. And I stopped playing video games back in college because I was drastically losing my mind, being up for like 48 hours just playing a video game.
I just can't do it. My kid, I don't even like playing with my kids because it makes me so mad because I can't get the ball out of the quarterback's hands before I'm just being creamed.
Oh my God, Half-Life was the death of me.
All right. I do have one thing to bring up before we wrap this thing up. Somebody asked me for a favor, and I figured I'd throw it out here. Does anybody's municipality, department, whatever it might be, operate their hazmat response out of a regular box truck, like a Penske, like a Hertz? If you do, please PM me, DM me, whatever you want to call it. Hit me directly at Bob at the Hazmat Guys, and let me know, because I have somebody that's a rather large customer, we'll say, is looking to investigate doing this, and they're looking to improve their game by maybe picking your brain. So if you could, Bob at the Hazmat Guys.
Bob, I'll get with you offline. Taught some classes around the country this year and got to see a lot of equipment. And I think I have a list of who some of those people are, so we can help with that.
Yeah, guys, he's a good dude, and he asked me for a favor, and I said, yeah, let me ask on the show and see if anybody knows about it. So if anybody knows about it, just hit me on the side. And an old Coke truck. Yeah, I guess so. Hit me up. Let me push you over to him. Thanks, Grant.
I'd like to get some information on a subject, if I could get people to email me as well. We were having a conversation in the firehouse about pappers and Cap 1 filters and the length of time that you can operate in them and what they're actually certified to and how much time you can spend in them. And there was a discussion that we can really only spend 15 to 20 minutes in a papper. So I'd like to hear anybody's thoughts on that. Mike at the Haz Mat Guys.
All right.
Yeah, speaking of that, so you can reach all of us at the Haz Mat Guys. So it's Bob at the Haz Mat Guys, Mike at the Haz Mat Guys, Kosh at the Haz Mat Guys, or Jason at the Haz Mat Guys.
Yeah. So that's it, right? You want to take us out?
So I can take us out. Absolutely.
Do it.
Thanks for taking a few minutes at the table with us today. This show is a Haz Mat Guys production and brought to you by Responder Training, respondertraining.com. Northeast Hazmat, where you can find hazmat equipment that makes annoying and complicated hazmat handling jobs fast and easy. That's northeasthazmat.com. K&R Plaques, Awards of Distinction for First Responders and Everyday Citizens. That's knrplaques.com. Shameless plug, I just got one from them. It was awesome. So thank you to K&R. And Haz Mat 101 Consultants, from business consulting to custom lectures and classes. That's hazmat101consultants.com. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next